Good morning. How you doing, Manesh? Oh,
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I guess I will hear better if I actually plug in the earbuds that I have on my head.
That's I don't know if you noticed that you kind of have to put them actually in there. You know.
Yeah, one of these days, it's a usability issue. They don't automatically plug themselves in when you put them in your ears. If only all earbuds were Bluetooth. Oh, hello, Jonathan. Hope you're doing well. We'll have a few folks joining here in a few minutes, and we'll get started with a round of introductions, getting to know everybody.
Thank you. I hope you're doing well as well.
Thank you. We're doing fantastic. We have got a lot going on this month, man. It is. I'm not sure where in the world you are, but we've got two product camps this month. One over in the Research Triangle at Raleigh, Durham, and I'm going to be going over to that one on the 19th. It's an evening event, which is a little bit different. I'm pretty excited about it. We're going to do a lot of deep dive into customer discovery at that product camp. It's kind of a very topical approach that Seth has put together over there. And then we've got Product Camp Atlanta in Atlanta on September 29th at the Georgia Aquarium. Going to be amazing. And not only that, I mean, we've got all our regular stuff. We actually got a full slate going on this month. We'll talk about more of it in a few minutes. We've got Stephen Wunker, one of the authors of the Jobs to Be Done book that we're reading in book club, is going to be hanging out on the 21st for an author's chat, kind of a real kind of exclusive Q&A and discussion about the book and Jobs to Be Done theory. And then we got John Mansour doing a big workshop on the 22nd on prioritizing based on customer outcomes. And we got a whole series of outcome-based sessions this month. So it's going to be an awesome month. Not to mention all the other stuff that's going on around Atlanta. If you're in Atlanta, there's Health Connect, FinTech South. It is a crazy, crazy month. And I know there's a lot going on in Chicago as well. I can't remember the event specifically. I think I saw something coming up in Houston. It is just a busy product management event month. Where are you from, Jonathan?
I'm in Atlanta, so I'm looking forward to many of those events.
Awesome. Perfect. Oh, and we got the happy hour coming up on the 21st as well up in Alpharetta. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as too.
that'll be great. Let's see here. Gotta give it a minute more for a couple more folks to join and get started with our round of introductions. For those who are just joining, if you haven't been with us before, strongly encourage you to turn on your camera if there's any way that you can do so. One of the things that we like to do is we treat this isn't like a normal webinar type of a meeting. This is an interactive, this is a group meetup. We sit here, we drink coffee, or depending on where you are and what time of day it is or what you prefer to drink, you can drink whatever you like. But we're going to sit here and have something to drink and just chat, talk about product management stuff. We'll get into our discussion on how you can use Jobs to be Done theory to really focus in and discover customer outcomes that can lead to great innovation. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, while we're kind of getting started, we like to just kind of have a little bit of chit chat and get to know each other. So I'd love you to join with that. I won't call on you unless your camera is on, unless you specifically raise your virtual hand using the reactions panel down below, in which case I will actually call on you if you ask me to introduce yourself. All right, let's see how we're doing here. We got about 10 on. There's Steve Youngblood. How you doing? Bring you off mute and get you to say hello and introduce yourself to some of these new folks that we haven't met yet.
Yeah, I was just saying, been busy, but I'm glad it's been a busy summer. I'm glad the fall is here now. Ready for that.
It is absolutely that time. What are you working on these days?
Number of things. As you guys know, I've been part part of the founding team at Fuel Trust the last 2.5 years or so. My head of engineering there also has a software company, who he's brought me into that now. And that name of that company is Faith Teams. It's essentially a CRM for churches. And so it's one of the big 5 out there. So it's pretty interesting, and helping him try to transform that into a growth stage, and working on some things for you as well, Jason. So that's actually going quite well. I got something to show you here after the end of the week. So,
oh, sweet. Looking forward to that. Yeah.
That's actually been a lot of fun. I've actually rebuilt from the ground up and did it really fast. It looks the same, but the underpinnings are what you, I think, expected. So anyway, I'll
very cool.
Help Jason out on a couple things with Product Coffee. And
sweet. Thank you.
It's actually fun. So that's been what I've been quite busy with. Anyway.
Cool. We have also been working on the other side of the Product Coffee Premium experience, and we'll be launching that. We'll be doing a kind of a pre-launch here pretty soon with for our founding members, and our Product Coffee Premium members have access to the archives of all of our past sessions, as well as all of our past workshops. And we are launching a new ChatGPT enabled experience that brings a real-time product management coach to the forefront from the archives of our content, who can help you learn about important product management topics, learn new skills, and find specific points in the discussions that we've had over the last 3 years about how to master these skills. So it's going to be a really exciting launch. We're previewing it with the internal team right now, and we'll launch it to our members, to our premium members, in about a week and a half is our plan. So we're pretty excited about that. And so with that, coupled with the work that Steve's doing, we're going to have a whole bunch of new experiences to share before too long. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Who else do we have here today? Hey, let's hear from Matt Burris. Hey, Matt, how are you today?
I am pretty good. I can only join for the first 20 minutes or so because I got a conflict, but good to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you here. Let's introduce you to folks who don't know you. Tell everybody who you are, what you're working on, and what has your attention these days.
So I'm Matt Burrows. I'm one of the partners at Savvy Tinker Studios, and the partners of the studio are actually building a portfolio company based on one of our internal tools to minimize the impact of cognitive bias in customer discovery. It's something that myself and Tali have personally experienced going through the Flashpoint Accelerator and unlearning the natural behaviors we have that are the cognitive biases is extraordinarily painful. The Flashpoint program, Cohort 12, we called the weekly feedback sessions Bloodbath Tuesdays. So we're trying to make it a lot less painful for folks and still get the same kind of benefits.
So you're saying that product managers have a cognitive bias to things?
I'd say everybody does. It's human nature. You can't avoid it. But there are steps you can do to minimize the impact of bringing that bias into those questions.
You know, I actually Totally sent me a link to the alpha version that you guys have that you kind of were tinkering with. And I plugged in a couple of questions from a survey that I did recently, and just that I thought were pretty well balanced questions. And it actually just this initial shot, it gave me a good critique of the questions that I had, pointed out where there was some bias that after I read it and its explanation, I was like, that makes total sense. I didn't think of that. So you got a promising start there.
It's pretty interesting because when you really get down to it, there's almost no phrasing you can ever use that is going to eliminate bias, right? Mm-hmm. But bias in and of itself is neutral until you're in a specific situation where then you can say, this bias is introducing something I don't want, or it is. Like if you're in sales and marketing, the job is to create the right bias, right? Build that emotional connection. But yep. In what we're trying to do, it's generally eliminate it or induce it in a controlled fashion so that you know what you're expecting, and you can kind of control the output a little bit better. But yeah, it's fun. I actually ran a couple of standard venture investor questions through it, and the results were very surprising.
Yep. So that's cool. I'm really excited. Looking forward to watching you guys progress, and I think we're going to see you at Product Camp too, right?
Yeah, and we might have a little bonus for folks that join Product Camp as well.
Sweet, sweet. Well, it's great to see you, Matt. Welcome back. It's been a few weeks. I know you've had your hands full, so it's good to see you. Yeah, exactly. I was not going to announce that for you, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent. So let's see here. Who else do we have here? So for those of you who are just joining us, if your camera's on, I'd like to invite you to introduce yourself to everybody here at Product Coffee. Tell us what you're working on, and if you'd like, tell us what has your attention these days. It might be a challenge that you'd like some help solving. We got some smart people that are always happy to jump in and help out, or we might connect with you offline and help out. Or if you've got something you want to celebrate, like a 7-week-old baby and a successful, alpha launch of a product, let us know. We'd be happy to cheer those things on with you as well. So let's go over to Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
How are you doing today? My name is Jonathan, and been a product manager for about 4 years now. I've just recently relocated from Florida to the Atlanta area. So I'm currently trying to network with more product managers out here, see what opportunities out here, and see where I can get my fit in. See where I can fit in perfectly. I do appreciate you guys coming up with all these events. It's been very helpful to meet more product managers out here, and I'm looking forward to the events that's coming up this month.
Excellent. Great to see you. Glad to have you. Welcome to Atlanta. And for those of you who are hearing us, just a lot of us are based here in Atlanta. This group started back in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, during the ascension of the pandemic, I guess, when we couldn't get together in person. We decided to get together virtually with our Product Camp Atlanta crew. And since then, we've grown to a global community. About 40% of us are based here in Atlanta still, but that relative number continues to shrink over time. And we would love you to invite your friends to be a part of this community. We are here for the sole purpose of helping each other excel in our careers, be more impactful product people, finding ways to take the stuff that we learn in our certification classes and our online training and build a community to help us make that real and actionable as we start to put it into practice, to have people that we can lean on who have been there before and can help each other succeed. So we're glad you're here with us today. And let's jump over to Dustin. Dustin, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Doing well. It's good to see you.
Glad to have you.
Yeah. So I'm a part of the product team at Kaiser Permanente, and I've been with them for about 1.5 years now. Been attending these events on and off for a couple of years. So I haven't been to many, but I've been to a few. Happened to have some availability today, so it worked well. And I'd say top of mind right now is probably like many, AI is a hot topic. For us at Kaiser, it's how do we do it responsibly? Because when introducing it to healthcare is a whole different ballgame. So yeah, we're spending a lot of thought time on that one.
I can imagine. It's some of the early analysis, AI analytical jobs went really hard into healthcare, but now that we're getting into the generative space, there's so many possibilities, but to your point, so many risks to consider as well.
There are. I attended a virtual conference I think it was 2 weeks ago, that Epic put on. And so Epic's an EMR. They handle all the records for a member or a patient. And they've been testing with their secure messaging with doctors, AI creating a response to the patient, and the doctor has the ability to read it and then decide whether to use it or not. But in their testing, patients prefer the AI response to what the doctor writes. So
really
pretty cool outcomes there. pretty cool.
That is really cool. Imagine it takes a good bit of oversight, but I see so many of those use cases coming forward that are just gonna free people up to focus on things that are more efficient uses of their time, so that they can really bring their expertise to the table to heal people in these cases, opposed to kind of communicating about some of those basic things.
Absolutely. I think one of the other cool things is ideas we've had that have been really hard in the past to solve, right? So we haven't tackled the problem because the problem was hard, it was complicated. With AI, often there's new solution opportunities that become a lot easier. So now that problem isn't so complicated to solve. Perhaps a little bit of risk is introduced that we have to account for, but complexity comes way down in many cases. So there's problems that we're starting to reconsider that we were avoiding in the past.
And that's one of the things I love about this whole wave. I was having a really cool conversation yesterday with one of the professors over at Georgia Tech about the nature of some of these innovative technologies. We all went through how many, just by virtual show of hands, how many, or you can type in chat, how many of you got a mandate at some point in the last 5-10 years to do something with blockchain? Say, hey, go figure out this blockchain thing. How many of you got asked to do that? I know I was at IBM, and that was really a big conversation that was going on. People were really focused on that technology, and I think it's still a valuable technology. There was definitely an overhyping at some point, and then the same thing with AI. Everybody wants to figure out what can we solve with it, but you're asking the right question. What are the problems? What are the opportunities that we know about that new technologies now make more accessible to deliver solutions for? And that's the exact right question. Are there problems we can solve that we couldn't before, that were just too hard, or there was no ROI on before, and now we've got some possibilities? That's there's so many transformational opportunities out there right now too. So it's really cool to hear that one of these spaces that is going to be fundamentally risk averse is taking a really good, strong, useful, measured approach, but is really looking at how can we change healthcare with it. That's exciting.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Let's see here. Who's next? Hey, Beth Miller, how are you today?
Great. Thanks for calling on me. Yeah, so I am, my company is myself. I'm currently looking for new roles in the workforce. And I come from kind of a product adjacent team at Indeed, go to market, and I focus a lot on customer success, feedback, helping MVPs become a better version 2. And so what has my attention right now is just keeping my eye on what's interesting out there, learning more about what product managers are thinking and working on and concerns. And I'm all ears to big fan of the product management area. I haven't taken a leap into it yet. Haven't held that title, but I'm an apt student.
Very good. Yeah. And we worked together at IBM a few years back, and you were always really plugged in with the product team to be a really great advocate for the types of relationships that we needed to build with customers. And that was always appreciated.
Yeah. I kind of think of myself as like a customer superhero and apply that across disciplines. So
very good. Very cool. Well, it's
Thanks.
great to see you here, Beth. Glad to have you back with us. Let's see here. Who have we not heard from yet? How about Manesh? How you doing, Manesh? You've been a busy man lately.
It's going to be worse as you started out this the session. This month is going to be, like you said, very hectic. Have to go to San Francisco at the end of the month. I may not make it to product camp.
No.
So I'm going to try and figure out the flights and see if I can make it in. I might have to do a Jerry, fly in red eye and just show up at the product camp. We'll see how that goes.
We'll have coffee.
So top of mind right now, I'm part of a product coffee book club. We're doing the Jobs to Be Done book by Stephen Wonker. And this session is going to be kind of important to me as well, because at my company, we're trying to get our product owners to kind of look at it from a different perspective and not a subject matter expert in the application itself, but from the user and what work they're trying to get done. We've identified some features that they want to bring in and start working on, and it's not translating to something that can actually help those users. And so, yeah, that's top of mind right now. And then, Thursdays, just going to give my plug while we at it. Thursdays, we have book club at 4 p.m. You can find out more information at productcoffee.com/book club. And look forward to having you guys over there if you want to extend that discussion with jobs to be done. And that's the book I'm working on right there.
It's a good book. I've read a few books on jobs to be done, and I think one of the things that I really like about this book is it is not just a brochure for a consultancy. It is, no, here's how we do this work, and here's how you can go do this work. And so if you're looking for a good guide to implementing jobs to be done theory, it's been a great book to help you understand the ins and outs and the how-tos. And this book club has been an amazing group of product people to kind of go through and have some really active discussions about what that might mean in your own product line, in your own organization. So and it's not too late to join. You can pick up the book, catch up, be a part of the discussions, even if you don't have the book. And we'll give you a link to that here in just a minute as well to join that. I would remind you, if you haven't introduced yourself yet, if you turn on your camera, I will try to get to you to let you introduce yourself to everybody here at Product Coffee. And let's go over to Andy Pohl. How you doing, Andy?
Hey, doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
All right.
Yeah. Tell everybody who doesn't know you who you are and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, sure. So Andy Pohl, I'm a product strategist for Method. And right now, we work on a variety of different kinds of projects, from product strategy and discovery to complete build projects. So right now I'm on definitely very much of a build project. So very exciting. We're moving new features out to UAT and to production on a limited scope in the stores of this client. So that's pretty cool. And right now, and actually while I was about 20 minutes late, I'm learning about the need for splitting off JIRA tickets in a variety of means, sometimes unexpectedly. So sometimes a day or two into a sprint, even too, which is maybe not ideal perfectly, but that's what happens. Sometimes you got to run with it. So yeah.
Can you genericize that story enough to tell us a good story on pivoting with your plan?
Yeah, I can, because it involves tooltips, something we're all familiar with. We have a modal, that the users are using to add certain jobs to be done, actually, by the staff at this store. And so I had a variety of different details in that story, and I was recognizing it was getting pretty large, but then the team saw the tooltips, which jump out to a spreadsheet, which they need to figure out a database table for it, and this and that, and some of this wasn't provided till last week too. So we had to be very agile with information we requested from the client, which, we have lots of things we request from the client, right? So they have to prioritize too and everything, but I got what I needed and gave it to them. So that part, they hadn't quite decided, because it was somewhat new where to put that information. So that's kind of what resulted in the split off. But Jira made it pretty easy with the little, the labels and the links, and split it off, copy paste, hope that I hit save, right? And go from there and double check the work. So yeah.
Very cool. I see we've got another Methodite here. We've got Greg Hebda up in Chicago. How you doing, Greg?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Good to see you. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yep. So, like Jason said, I'm Greg, and I also work for Method. So, since Andy introduced us so well, I won't bother with that. But what has my attention is right now I'm between projects. My last project ended last week. My next project starts next week for the same client. So there's some good background knowledge that I can bring to it. And right now we're just in the process of defining what the outcomes of that project should be. We kind of know we know what we're working on, and we know what the deliverables are, and we're defining what they're trying to accomplish.
That's awesome. That's great music to the ears. I know. And my next person I was going to call on is John Mansour, and I know he loves the language of outcomes too. So let's hear from John too. Welcome back, Greg.
Yeah, Jason, whenever I hear outcomes, it automatically gets my attention because what I'm working on hasn't changed for 22 years, and that's how to help our profession deliver products that have more strategic value to the customer and to our own organization, and make that easier to do, right? So lifelong quest, because easy is a relative term in our profession.
That's a fact.
Yeah. And so, everything, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the president of Product Management University. We obviously train product managers, product marketing managers, and also have programs for pre-sales and customer success. But, everything, our entire curriculum is built around customer outcomes. And obviously that applies at multiple layers of the customer organization, one of them down at the user level in jobs, which, has tremendous value there. So yeah, looking forward to the program today. And, the other thing, every now and then I have these revelations, and lately I've been writing a lot more about portfolio management and, how it can be more strategic, so on and so forth. And I had this revelation that, the whole, we need to be more strategic. Everybody's heard that a million times, right? But I got to thinking, our profession doesn't have a single definition of what that means. And so that means it's kind of hard to measure. And I know people get really frustrated because we feel like we're never doing enough or we're never meeting expectations, right? So my last couple of blogs, I've made an attempt to sort of put out there a definition of strategic product management and product marketing, which happen to be the same, and that's not coincidental. But it's more of a netted out definition in terms of the end result or outcome, if you will. So I'll stick links to those articles in the chat here sometime during the session today. But it always starts with customer outcomes and customer value, and we work backward from there to figure out if that's something we can do to deliver it in a way that's successful for our company. So there you have it.
Awesome. Yep, absolutely. And I just dropped in the chat there a link to Product Camp RTP, where you and I will both be hanging out week after next, I think it is. Yeah, on the 19th.
Yes.
And it's going to be at the Pendo headquarters in Raleigh. So hope anybody who can get to that area can join us there. It'll be a lot of fun. And then the week after that, we've got Product Camp Atlanta at the Georgia Aquarium. And if you come to Product Camp Atlanta, we'll be there from until 4 in the afternoon for Product Camp. And then at 4, and we'll be having that event in the ballroom, in the Oceans Ballroom at the Georgia Aquarium. So speakers will be competing with belugas and giant manta rays for their for attention. But after the event at 4 o'clock, they're going to let everybody who attends that event into the aquarium for the rest of the day. If you'd like to stay, we'll have a happy hour there at the aquarium and get to walk around and kind of relax and socialize and continue the discussion under the sea, so to speak. And food's catered by Wolfgang Puck, going to be the best food we've ever had at Product Camp. It's going to be amazing. So hope you can join us in Atlanta for that Product Camp. That is free to attend. You got to get here, but we'd love to have you join us. All right, with that being said, we're at the top of the hour, so let's shift gears over here for a minute and welcome you to Product Coffee. For those who are joining us, we're going to be digging in on outcomes today, specifically finding customer outcomes through jobs to be done framework and how that can help to identify true customer outcomes that are really going to help create some value and innovation. And the way we're going to do that's a little bit different. We're going to do a little bit of introductory content, and then we're going to work into some discussions, and we're going to take some real world discussions around our own products and dig into the outcomes and the jobs that we assume and believe that our customers are focused on, and do some self-critique and some group critique and see if we can go a little bit deeper and find new opportunities for innovation along the way. So it should be a lot of fun, and glad to have you here. Even if you're not currently working on a product, or if you're working on a product that you have to keep confidential, you can talk about something that you did recently or in the past, or you can genericize what you're working on. But I hope you'll join us for that exercise and participate in it to kind of dig in a little bit deeper and take these lessons and put them into practice today. But before we get into that, let's talk about our sponsors. We do this every week. We have a great group of folks who continue to make these weekly sessions possible. John, you're one of them with Product Management University. You've been supporting us since the very beginning. I think you were one of our very first guest speakers as well. And we've also got a lot of support from Method. You've met a couple of folks here from Method today. And I also want to point out Genuine Parts Company, who has been supporting Product Coffee for the last year, and big player at Product Camp as well. If you missed it last week, we had a great discussion with Brooke Logan about some of the opportunities and positions, the product management roles that are open at Genuine Parts. We're going to have another discussion next week with one of Brooke's peers, but you can go out to youtube.com/product coffee and you can see the replay of that interview that we had with Brooke about what's going on over at Genuine Parts right now. And then, of course, we've also got ongoing support from our friends at Sophion, who have launched acclaimproducts.io. Check that out. That is a toolkit for helping you really track with great discipline how everything you do is contributing towards achieving success in your product, tying to the KPIs, both the KPIs that your stakeholders care about and the KPIs that you're thinking about to ensure product success, and building out your plan and roadmap to really deliver measurable value all along the way. Check out acclaimproducts.io. There's a free trial there from our friends at Sophion. You can check it out for 14 days and see how it can help you in your own practice. So thanks to all those sponsors. I'm going to drop some links in the chat as well. And I would really like to ask everyone to take a moment to get to know these sponsors who are making this community possible and supporting this program every week. So thanks to all of you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Method. And we will get those links in there in just a minute. So let's talk about what's coming up, though. So next, coming up in the next couple of weeks, in the next few weeks, we have got a brand new workshop. One of the things that we do here is we do some professional development workshops, and we're talking about John's education courses. And John has agreed to come and do some training for us here at Product Coffee for everyone who wants to join us for a rate that you'll never get from John directly. He's really taking care of us. So John's going to be doing a workshop on using customer outcomes to really help with your strategic product prioritization and make sure that you're really simplifying your prioritization process by being fully aware and focused in on the outcomes that you're trying to deliver for your customers. And that's a 2-hour workshop. It's another big event in the month of September on September 22nd. So anything else you want to say about that just yet, John? We're going to start sending some emails out about that in the next week or so.
No, but it's highly relevant to today's session because jobs to be done will be highly relevant to that conversation and that workshop.
Excellent. Well, we are super excited to have that coming up, and registration will open for it soon, and hope you can all join us there. Then next week, I saw we have John Harmer jumped in here as well. We've got Keely Funkhauser and John Mansour are going to be on a panel for us next week where we're going to really dig in and take a different discussion, take a different discussion track, still focused on outcome, but really talk about what making this shift to an outcome-driven product strategy looks like. And John, Keely, and John have all had a lot of experience in working with organizations that have been fundamentally feature focused and shifting the thinking and shifting the conversation to building a product strategy around delivering those outcomes. And a lot of you know those are hard conversations to have internally. Those are sometimes uphill battles to change the hearts and minds of stakeholders. And we're going to talk about how they've been successful at that over the course of their careers. Hope you can join us here. That's next Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. I see Allison is on. Manesh is still here, I think. Can one of you, looks like Allison had to drop actually. So Manesh, you want to talk about the book club one more time real quick? You might have had to step away. He hadn't made it back yet. So
that I can join, sorry about that.
No problem. I got it. I got it.
But essentially, I said before, for everybody else, Product Book Club runs every Thursday at 4 p.m. Currently, we're doing the jobs to be done by Stephen Walker, Jessica Wellman, and David Barber. September 21, we will have Stephen on the phone with us in a Zoom meeting, talking about the book and answering questions and digging deeper into what he and they said in the book and what problems we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So please go ahead and join. It's never too late, even if you didn't, catch up to the book. It's still valuable, in my opinion, and look forward to seeing you guys there.
Cool. Thanks, Manesh. Yep. And you can go to productcoffee.com/book club. If you're not already on the invite list, going over there, there's just a little form, fill it out. That will send you a calendar invitation for all those meetups that we have coming up. And we also have Stephen Wunker, one of the authors of the book, is going to be doing an author's Q&A for our premium members on the 21st. If you're a premium member, you can join the Zoom and get to know Stephen a little bit and ask your questions and be part of that discussion. If you're not a premium member, we'll also stream it on YouTube. You'll just be kind of in a watch only kind of a view there. Premium members will also have access to the recording of that session, but that'll be just behind the premium, in the premium area of the Product Coffee experience. So thank you, Manesh. Thank you, Allison, and thank you, Brandy, for running that book club every week. It's been a fantastic group of product people to learn with. All right. So if you haven't joined us before, one of the things that we do every week is we have a notes document that we share. If you go over to productcoffee.com/notes, you can jump into that Google Doc. You can star it and save it in your own drive. And we ask that everybody kind of take notes together, share your insights as a team instead of keeping it all to yourself. And that kind of enriches the networking and the connection here in the Product Coffee community. And if you can join us in that document, drop your LinkedIn address in there so that you can connect to other Product Coffee members and find each other a little bit more easily with the ones who are here today. Star it, save it in your own Google Drive, and we would love to, and we'll get to know you that way as well, and have you be a part of the overall discussion. So, okay, that being said, let's get into our program today. My name is Jason Brett, and today we are going to be talking about discovering outcomes with jobs to be done. And this is the first part of our Leading with Outcomes series that we're going to be running through the month of September, where we're really going to be focusing in on this concept. Now, this is, I'm going to do a little bit of setup. We've got a lot of discussions going on around the concept of jobs to be done, so I don't plan to spend our time here today doing a deep dive on jobs to be done as a whole. But what I do want to do is I do want to set the stage a little bit with some fundamental principles and history for those who haven't heard it and haven't been a part of that discussion. But we'll keep that pretty quick, because what we really want to do is we want to get into the discussion itself and some of the exercises that we put together here to get back to this kind of coffee meetup mentality and help each other improve our own product management skills and our own products. All right, so let's dive into it. Let me share my screen here. All right, here we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, just as we're getting started, is there is a pretty famous story about jobs to be done, and Clayton Christensen dropped it into the to illustrate the jobs to be done framework. I think he mentioned this in he's got a book. It is called The Innovation Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. I think that's where he talked about this milkshake. So basically what happened is there's a fast food restaurant that shall remain nameless at this point, but you can probably guess which one it was. And they wanted to improve their overall milkshake sales. And in order, they did all the regular market research, and they were trying to figure out who drank milkshakes and what kind of milkshakes they liked and what would trigger them to buy a milkshake. And as they got feedback, they kept doing things like tweaking the flavors, changing it up a little bit, adding some toppings, but it didn't really change their sales. They worked with Christensen and his team to implement this jobs to be done theory. And what they found when they started doing some real observational ethnographic research, what they learned is that there was a significant group of customers who were buying milkshakes for a completely unexpected reason. They were buying them early in the morning, which went against the conventional wisdom. This is a dessert or something you're going to have with your lunch, but they're buying these milkshakes early in the morning, and not as a meal complement, but as a standalone breakfast item. So they dug in on that a little bit. And what they learned is that the job that these morning milkshake buyers were hiring milkshakes to do was not to be a sweet treat, but actually it was to give them something that they could easily consume in their car during a long commute. They wanted something that would last, and so the thick milkshake would last a little bit longer, take them longer to eat it than shoving a biscuit down their throat. And so it would keep them full for longer during their commute. It also, so they shifted the focus of their marketing to highlight the milkshake's ability to do just that, to give you that thick shake that'll last a long time and keep you satisfied on your long drive. And they had massive sales increases due to that campaign. So that's a really cool example that explains some of the value of the jobs to be done theory. And the idea behind jobs to be done theory is that we don't buy products. We hire products, and we hire those products to fulfill a need and to help us achieve an outcome. And we'll come back to this example in a moment and talk about what the outcomes for the milkshake actually were versus what we thought they were. But Christensen said this. He said, the jobs to be done framework really causes you to crawl into the skin of your customers and go with her as she goes about her day, always asking the question as she does something: why did she do it that way? Why that way? Why not another way? And so he along with Tony Ulwick and some other great thought leaders, have been writing and spending a lot of time refining this jobs to be done theory and jobs to be done framework. And this framework really helps us do a lot of things. There are really like 8 core fundamental components of the jobs to be done framework, but I want to lean on 4 of them here today. And just for kind of setting the stage, because I think there's some of the foundational ones that matter in this specific conversation. One is jobs to be done. The whole approach of jobs to be done is designed to help you understand the customer's context. So it moves outside of demographics and even psychographics and focuses and leans in on understanding where customers are when they're using your product, when they're buying your product. What is their life like? What is their experience like? How does that product fit into their lived experience in general? What is that context? Which is very different question from why did you choose our brand over another brand? It's how does this product fit into your life? It's also used, and we'll talk about in just a minute how you do this, but to find hidden needs and pains associated with that context. What are the things that aren't obvious that customers may not even think to suggest to you or ask about or look for, that they may just accept as part of life, that we might be able to uncover? Jobs to be done framework and jobs to be done theory helps to uncover those things so that you can decode the real outcomes that customers are after. That starts at the beginning of the process and it goes all the way through the entire process, understanding the big outcomes that your product is a part of solving for, but also the little outcomes that address those hidden needs and pains along the way. And the ultimate culmination of that is taking this information and using it to identify opportunities for innovation, for gaps in the marketplace that didn't exist. And we'll talk about a couple stories on that in just a moment to kind of make that a little bit more real and help to introduce some challenging thinking for your own products. So one of the fundamental activities of jobs to be done theory is it's a research heavy approach, combines both qualitative and quantitative research, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. But essentially, as you're building an understanding of your customer's context and the reason that they are hiring your product, one of the things that you do to aggregate this information is you map the path through the experience with your product. And for those of you who were part of our service design blueprint workshop with Elisa Bordner a couple of weeks ago, this is going to be, there's definitely a large overlap here in the thinking and the mentality, because you're really trying to get a full understanding, in this case, of every activity that happens that while your customer is approaching your product, using your product, and stepping away from your product. What are the triggers to use your product? What are the experiences that they have along the way? And as you start, if you think about the concept of cooking a meal for friends, of having a dinner party, and you start to break down all the little steps that start with saying to your partner, let's have a dinner party. And every step that you take along the way until you wish the last guest good evening and clean up the kitchen afterwards. These are all little jobs that get done along the way in trying to achieve that outcome of having a successful dinner party and a happy experience at the end of the dinner party. Happy experience meaning the kitchen's clean and everything's done. So as you map out that path, you start to uncover a lot of opportunities. And one of the keys to mapping out that path is understanding the end point. What is the real outcome that your customer is going after? And there are, once again, we're not going to go into a deep dive into how to construct a full interview. That would take us days to get to that level of mastery. But there are a few key questions that a lot of product people don't necessarily automatically consider when uncovering the outcomes that their customers are pursuing. And this is where we're going to go with this today. Let's start with the triggers in general. So one of the questions that gets left behind all too often, and John, feel free to jump in with any that you think are really important that we miss here as well, or anyone else. One of the questions though that gets missed in the first place at the very beginning is, why did you even start? What happened that started you to even consider this process, this outcome, this job that needed to be done? Why did you decide to have a dinner party in the first place? Where were you when you thought, I'd like a milkshake? What were you doing when you decided to go get a milkshake? What triggered that purchasing behavior? Another question that we don't often enough ask is, as you observe a customer or observe someone in the marketplace exhibiting a behavior, doing something, doing a job, why did you do it the way you did it? There were alternative approaches that you might have taken. What did you consider that you didn't do? Why did you not take another approach? Why did you take the approach that you took? That starts to give us a bit more vocabulary around what people ultimately want to accomplish. One of my favorites is, okay, after you're done with this, whatever task you may be, I worked in email marketing for a big portion of my career. So after you have successfully sent the campaign, what are you going to do next? What comes after? Because that's going to lead on to the next outcome down the chain. And finally, I think we often ask the questions designed to reveal what success looks like, but I think we often also accept the first answer that a customer gives us, that a candidate, that an interview subject gives us as to what success looks like, and we need to really dig further down than we often do into really defining what long-term success looks like. And that's often in B2B expressed in terms of career satisfaction or life experiences. John, what else you want to add?
Yeah, I think this, what you're saying here, Jason, gets right to the heart of something that I think our profession, I don't know if I'd say struggles with, but I think it's one of those things where we might be working a lot harder than we need to. And it gets back to, it's like you said, so we're talking about some particular job. Why is that important in the first place? And to me, it's the difference between starting with a customer problem and starting with a customer outcome, right? Because if you start with a customer problem, you may eventually get to the outcome, but our mentality is, when I hear a problem, I go to solution, as opposed to, why do I even care about this problem in the first place? And then the other question is, when you tell me exactly what you're doing when you have this problem, right, which gets to the job, right? So if I know what you're doing and why you have this problem and why we even care about the problem, then, I'm on track with what you're saying here. And I think that context, we underestimate that context because we're in a hurry to figure out what the product solution looks like. And I think that's probably one thing where we need to be more patient up front, so that it accelerates what we do on the back end downstream.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. I really, absolutely. And I love how this recurring major theme of, when you start with a problem, you move yourself into solutioning language. When you're seeking an outcome, there's a continuous exploration that you can continue to follow to learn more and go deeper and deeper and deeper along the way. I just saw Matt's comment about the shoving a biscuit down your throat sounds like taking on more work than you can handle in a sprint, equally discomforting as well. I'd rather have the milkshake shoved down my throat than the biscuit. But so thanks, John. So a couple more things before we get over into our exercise. I want to real quickly, hang on. There we go. Wrong one. That's what we want. Before we get into our exercises, I want to go back to not just the milkshake story, but a couple of examples around how jobs to be done theory can reveal some opportunities by understanding outcomes and pains and hidden needs along the way. There's a couple of really good examples. One that is really interesting, and it comes from the world of agriculture. Arm & Hammer company has a livestock nutrition division, and they manufacture and distribute feed for herd animals. And there's a really great case study out on the Stratogen website, which is Tony Ulwick's consultancy, about how Arm and Hammer worked with Stratogen to implement jobs to be done theory. And they had some assumptions that they had been working with, specifically around dairy feed. And they were under the assumption that nutritionists were the customer that they needed to focus on. They needed to be able to develop and deliver products that gave good balanced nutrition to these dairy cattle, and that they needed to do so at a competitive price point in order to distribute these, because essentially what the outcomes they thought the nutritionists were after were that they wanted to keep the dairy cows well fed, healthy, and at the best price possible. Well, they did some jobs to be done exploration. They did some qualitative and quantitative research, and they actually identified 165 different jobs that were all related to feeding herd livestock, specifically dairy cattle. And one of the interesting things that they learned during this research is that nutrition was way oversimplified, and cost was not even the factor that they needed to be focusing on. What they learned was that in the dairy world, the outcome that customers were really looking for was a metric that they hadn't been following. It was called herd efficiency. And herd efficiency was definitely related to how healthy the livestock was, but also how efficiently do they convert the feed into milk, and how easy it is for them to consume the feed, how healthy do the cattle stay, how is reproduction served by the feed. So they started looking at the overall picture of herd efficiency and began to reformulate and focus on the dairy farmer instead, both enterprise, industrial, and small farmers, to look at to really communicate and deliver products that help to contribute to herd efficiency. And I'll drop on the if you go to the Product Coffee website and the events page, I'll drop a link into the notes later on to that case study, so you can check it out for yourself. So the point here is there were assumptions about the outcomes that people were after. We just want our cattle to be fed, when the reality is what we want to do is maximize milk production through nutrition and maximize the health of the herd through nutrition. And so really digging in deeper allowed them to change and innovate some new products that move them back into double-digit sales. Another case where Bosch, the tool manufacturer, was wanting to release a new circular saw, but this is a market that circular saws have been around for a long time, and everybody just kind of assumed this is a commoditized market. There's not really any real innovation that can be made in the circular saw space. But they implemented jobs to be done theory and did some really great ethnographic research, and they started to observe a couple things. One is that users of these saws were having a really hard time keeping the power cords out of the way when they were working with them. Often they were in danger of being cut. Extension cords were unwieldy. And the other thing that they observed was that users had, just with power saws in general, with circular saws in general, had a hard time at the beginning and end of the cut guiding a straight cut. So with those insights in mind, so straight, not just cutting a board, but an outcome being having a straight cut without the need for additional equipment was, or an efficient straight cut was a job to be done that had been unserved. So they modified the deck of their circular saw design so that you could line up the cut even at the very beginning when you're just coming onto the board, and at the very end when you're finishing the cut, and delivered a new circular saw that enjoyed incredible results in the marketplace. I'll drop both of those into the notes document while we are in the breakout sessions here in just a moment. And Greg, thank you for pointing that out. It is absolutely true. that one of Arm& Hammer's jobs was to ensure that higher herd efficiency existed so that we could have more morning milkshakes. So, all right. So let's shift gears here for a moment. I'm going to set us up for a group exercise. And what we're going to do is we're going to take about 15 minutes here and then come back together to talk about it. So I'm going to try to put everybody in groups of about 3 people. And what I'd like you to do is take a moment to think about your product, your portfolio, what it is you're working on. And if you're working on something that you can't talk about in a group of 3, check to see, what the, introduce yourselves real quickly, figure out what industries everybody's in. And if you're not comfortable talking about your current product, take something from your immediate past that you can talk about, or genericize your product enough, but think about one of the customer segments that you're serving right now with your products, or a persona, or you can use an archetype if you want to be really general, and explain to everyone in your group the job that they're hiring your product to do and what their desired outcomes are. Then I want everybody on the team that you're with to ask some probing questions to dig deeper and get you to think a little bit more deeply. Is that really the end of the value chain? Is filling yourself up with a sweet dessert after your hamburger, is that really the job that you're hiring the milkshake to do? Are there other jobs that maybe people are hiring your product to do? See if you can help each other with some discovery on that, or at least some hypotheses around discovery. Challenge the assumptions that are leading to those known jobs and known outcomes. Can you go deeper and find some new outcomes that maybe you hadn't considered? Or maybe you come up in this little discussion, you come with a few questions that you'd like to go back and dig in and do some more research on to learn more about your customers and how they can and the outcomes that they may have. How might you approach your research to answer some new questions that emerge during this conversation today? So get to know each other a little bit. I'm going to drop everybody into I'm going to drop everybody into some groups, and I will make my way around and kind of jump in and help folks out a little bit as needed. And we'll come back together in about 15 minutes. That gives everybody a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves to your group and jump in and take about 5 minutes to talk about 4 minutes to talk about each of your products. So I'm going to put that together. We've had a few people drop who don't want to participate. If you end up in a group with less than 3 people, if we have any singles, I'll try to move some people around as we go. But a couple of people, we'll try to keep everybody in groups of around 3 or so. All right. So any questions about that before we send you off into your groups? Cool. All right. Here we go. Got 3 to 4 per room. Move a couple people. All right. There we go. All right, this looks good. Okay, here we go, everybody, and we'll see you back here in about 15 minutes. Andy, you jump back over here?
Yeah, I had a flaky internet connection, apparently. Perfect timing.
All right. Well, let me I'm going to drop you in room 3 with Andrew and Eric real quick here.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Yep. All right. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you might um, just kind of hang out here for about 15 minutes. We'll be back in the group in actually 14 minutes now. And what we'll do is we'll ask everyone who has jumped off into these rooms to give a couple of examples of some of the things that they discussed along the way, and see what we learned as a group. One of these days, I'll have a setup that lets me leave something interesting playing for those who are watching on YouTube. But you'll hear us yammering when we come back. And if you'd like to jump into the Zoom meeting with us, I'll actually I'll drop our link directly to the Zoom call into the chat here. I see Mark and Submit and Amanda. If you'd like to jump into the Zoom at the last minute here, I just dropped that in on the YouTube channel chat, and I'll hang out here and watch for you to join and drop you in a room with one of our other groups if you'd like to be a part of that. Who is our feisty fiddler? All right. All right, Amanda, that's no problem. I'm going to jump into some of these rooms and go around and answer some questions. And we will be back. You'll sit here with a blank screen for a few minutes, but we'll be back in about 13 minutes. So see you soon. All right, and we're going to start seeing folks filter back in here in about the next minute or so. Let's see who's still with us out there on YouTube. We've still got a couple of folks watching with us. So if you're still here, I'd love you to say hey out there on YouTube. I know a lot of folks are multitasking, and that's just fine too. And we lost. All right. Hey, Greg.
Hey.
All right. Folks are starting to filter back in here. Excellent. Let's see. How are those breakout rooms looking? Looks like I think we've got everybody back in here. Who got shut down in the middle of a conversation?
Everybody. That's the way it always happens. There's no good time to suck everybody out of the breakout rooms.
No, there really isn't. But I hope you all had some enlightening conversations. And what I'd really like to do here for the next, 5 or 6 minutes is go around and ask for some representatives. And please, just to kind of speed this through, if you would, if you're willing to speak up about some of the insights and maybe even some discoveries that you made in your short conversation in your group or in today's session, just raise your virtual hand and I'll try to get to you first. I'll definitely kind of go from room to room in order and see if we had anybody that wants to speak up, but it would be great if some folks would volunteer first. I also had a question come in just before the chat, as just before we went out there, so I'll come back around to that in just a moment. Let's start with Andrew. Andrew Fuqua. Hello, sir. Tell us about what your discussion in your room.
I kind of monopolized the conversation. Sorry, team. But where I was musing was that for B2B products, enterprise software, you've got a different buyer and you've got different personas. And it feels like starting at the product level, why does the company buy my product seems a bit too high level, and looking at a particular low level feature in the UI is too low and cart before the horse. So what I need to do is find for each persona, and the self-serving corporate is I need this persona to give feedback to the business so they renew my damn subscription. So and every time I start thinking about this, I get tangled up in that and throw my hands up and go back and play in the backlog.
Love it. So okay, so that's a great insight in of itself as to just kind of how you're finding yourself working. One of the things that I find myself thinking, at least in my understanding, is not necessarily one of the great things. If you look at some of these approaches to jobs to be done and some of the identities that are uncovered through it, if we go back to the discussion where we were talking about really finding the customer context and finding related to that, finding the customer context and those hidden needs and pains is uncovering segments of customers that you didn't even necessarily know that was there. If you look at the Arm & Hammer example, there was some insight into segments of customers, or even the fast food milkshake. That was a really clear example of a segment of customers who the fast food chain wasn't even considering as a persona when they started the study. They weren't a persona they were considering. There was a segmentation based on behavior, had nothing to do with their age, their sex, their race, their financial stability. It was truly, what are they doing? They're driving to work and drinking a milkshake on their way to work. And that was a segment that was a really valuable insight. And so I find myself wondering, especially in your case, Andrew, as you're thinking about the different trigger points and the activities that need to happen. Well, the segment starts to become one of the questions I immediately started asking about segmentation of your audience is, okay, who is actually recommending that we renew the subscription? That's a behavior. And what's triggering them to do that, as opposed to asking about the individual type of user, the name your persona, John the genius. And instead of asking why John the genius does what he does, ask instead, who is recommending that we continue, and what's triggering that, and how do we map out their experience that led to that, and do we uncover jobs and outcomes there that could be valuable in rethinking it. It's a bigger job, it's a bigger task, but at the same time, it also leads to some different directional insights. So, yep. Beth.
Hey, so when I think about jobs to be done, I think about how I can immediately think about applications for marketing and advertising, because those, you can tell the stories that are going to appeal to people. What I'm interested in hearing from, if you agree that this is a worthwhile topic to explore, Jason, is how the product managers on this call think about, there's a split sort of like marketing and advertising, and then like product features and design. So, the person who's going to drink a shake in their truck on the way to work is not necessarily going to be maybe like a major revenue, or maybe even a major persona, but how would the product managers consider that in their practice, or would they not? But if that's not worthwhile for the conversation, then we can move on. Obviously, marketing and advertising has a lot of applications for this.
I think it is relevant, and I want to tag John Mansour. Can I tag you in, because you've spent probably more time than anyone I know kind of really serving in explicit roles and capacities and training those different perspectives.
Yeah. And, Beth, to answer your question, and, Alice and Andy, you guys were sort of getting to this, and this is where B2B is different. So in the milkshake example, the segment of the market was the morning commuter. Okay. And what they found out through research was there was a high number of milkshakes being sold in the morning. So Clayton Christian and team figured out, well, why are people buying that? Okay. And as it turns out, I posted up in the chat there, can't even imagine it today, but people were bored driving to work on these long commutes, and sucking on a milkshake was like their pacifier, because they're sitting in traffic going to work, right? It was literally nothing more than that. It's like, if I eat a banana, it goes too fast, or if I stuff the chicken biscuit down, it's gone too fast, it's work, my steering wheel's greasy. The milkshake was an easy thing that sort of did all of those. And I think when we get into B2B, starting with the job to be done is I think that is a cardinal mistake in terms of when we do discovery. Discovery should end with users, not start with them. I think we got to find out higher up in the organization what the company is trying to do and what things are important in any segment of the market, right? Take a vertical industry or even a horizontal segment, and find out what they're trying to accomplish, why it's important. And then once you figure out where the obstacles are, that will take you directly to the jobs that need to be addressed. And to me, it's a way to shortcut the process. It's too difficult to start with the job and work your way back up to figure out if and why it's important and why it matters and all that. If you start from the top down, you get to the right jobs much faster, I think, is what I'm saying here.
Okay. So with the cattle feed conversation, they knew that that was their business and they were working on nutrition, and then the jobs to be done gave them insights into how to talk about it. So it didn't really change their feed. It just gave them insights on how to talk about it.
That's certainly one of the outcomes, is knowing how to talk about it. I don't know if in the feed example, I'm not familiar with that one, if it changed how they did something to get a different outcome, or if it just gave them a better narrative to talk about what they do to get the same outcome. I don't know.
Yeah, I was curious. So, to John's point, imagine doing that 165 times to work from the bottom up to try to figure out which of those 165 jobs is most important. So Jason, how did they hone in on that job about herd efficiency and just being able to refocus on the dairy farmer and herd efficiency?
So the case study that I gave talks a little bit about it. They don't necessarily go so much into the how they honed in on that specific job, other than there was a prioritization exercise, and this is where they identified that there was an underserved need. It was so there were lots of jobs that were discovered, many of which were underserved, and then they prioritized the ones that were underserved, and that's a prioritization exercise that ultimately I think came back to value. I would assume a detailed conversation with the strategy group would reveal some deeper insights on exactly how they made that choice. I think to answer the other part of Beth and John's kind of question, and I'm going to jump over to you here, Allison, as well. But to answer the other part of that question, they did change the product based on what they learned. They identified that there was a need that they were not serving. It wasn't just about messaging in this case. It was absolutely about the product was not, they were not considering herd efficiency as one of the jobs that the product needed to solve for. So once they learned that, they did some innovation around the product itself, as well as on how they went to market with it. So Allison had to drop for another conversation. She had her hand up. I'm sorry we missed that. Okay, let's see here. That was Allison Herbert, not Allison Belforti. So anyway, but we are at the top of the hour today as well. And I'm really thankful that everybody got here. I hope it sounded like we had some insights come out of the discussions. I know that the group that Allison and I think Jim were in. I can't remember who else was in there with you, Ramesh. And I know you guys had some really good deep discussion in there that I listened in on. So thank you to everyone who came out and participated today. Remember that next week we are back at our 7:30 a.m. time slot, where we will have a panel with John Mansour, as well as Keely Funkhauser and John Harmer, and possibly one other mystery guest that we're still working on bringing on board. So looking forward to seeing you back here. About the conversation next week is going to be around how some of these folks have driven change to shift from a feature-focused strategy to a true customer outcome-driven product strategy. So we're looking forward to seeing you back here for that discussion next week. And until then, everybody have a great Wednesday and a great rest of the week. Thanks for joining us today. Bye.